Hello, and welcome to another Catholic Family News special report. And as you know, in these series, we've been trying to focus on Catholic action. So many times we have shows where we talk about sort of what's happening, be informed, but then we also want to talk about doing something about it. It's not enough to just be informed, we want to do something. Last week, we interviewed Father Marc Vernois, who presented a formal petition to the governor of Florida to consecrate the state to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Great example of Catholic action from clergy. Today, I'm happy to have join us on the show from Australia, Monica Smit, who has really taken the media, the real media, not the fake media, by storm with the great initiative she's enacted and been working on in Australia. So, welcome to Catholic Family News, Monica. It's great to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a great honor to be here with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, why don't you start telling us a little bit about yourself? What your life has been like growing up? How have you always had a devotion to your faith, or sort of how you've gotten to the point where you are today?
Oh, okay, great, lovely background.
In
Okay,
30 words or less. No.
okay, good one.
No.
No, so I'm the youngest of five, and since I was born, my family have been traditional Catholics. So I was just a normal traditional Catholic child growing up. We went to a Catholic school. We had a great community there. I didn't really have much vigor for the faith growing up, to be honest. I kind of just went along with the ride. And when I was about 18, I stopped practicing my faith. It just seemed a little bit too difficult for a young, adventurous person. So I wasn't always the way I am now, and I didn't always make my parents proud. So probably for at least 7 years, I was not practicing my faith at all. I tried to try the world out, see if that was better than being a Catholic. Turns out it wasn't, and it just leaves you with a lot of scars. And I learnt that the hard way, and I I had something traumatic happen, and it brought me back to the faith, which is many people's story. And from about 26 onwards, I've been practicing my faith. And about 3 years ago, I did a road trip all around America. I went to South America, and I went to a lot of pilgrimages. So a lot of the people listening would have seen me or met me, hopefully. And I did a lot of filming and interviewing and things like that. And I just got to know the community there really well. And then when I came home, about 3 months before COVID hit in Wuhan, basically I wanted purpose in my life. I've been praying for a long time for purpose. I had told God that I was willing to be single and just work my whole life for something. I didn't know what it would be. I had no idea it would be in any sort of political realm. COVID hit, and I was just so distraught with the fact that Victoria, Australia, is now the worst lockdown state in the world. So you can imagine we were locked down for 4 months around June, July, August sort of time. And people were angry, and they were annoyed, and they couldn't protest because it's against COVID restrictions to protest, right? All human rights were just suspended. So I was just, how am I going to help these people get this anger out? Because I know that if you keep it inside, it just festers and gets worse. So I started a Reignite Democracy Australia, which I had no idea what it would be, to be honest. But basically how it started is I did a live stream protest. So it was a legal protest. And I gathered all the comments, and I made like pie charts and stuff like that. And I sent it to all the members of parliament in Victoria to let them know how people were feeling. And that live stream had 1,500 live viewers, and no one knew who I was. I've never had a live stream hit that many views since. So it was this very strange catapulting into action. And from then on, I had a following, and talking about Catholic action, I never hide that I'm Catholic, but it's not the forefront of my action. However, I do put it in wherever I can, trust me. But everything that we do at Reignite Democracy Australia is about transforming the negative emotions that we have into action. There are a lot of people that can't act because they have families and things like that. And for them, praying is probably the only thing they can do. But I absolutely believe that it is our duty as Catholics and human beings going through this time in history to act. Because if we are sitting in a concentration camp in 2 years' time, What do you want to think? That you tried your hardest or that you didn't? So as a Catholic, I think it gives you a peace, know you did what you could. And I reckon everyone kind of knows that that they can do something if they can. And if you don't, you'll never be fully fulfilled. So Catholic action is 100% necessary. So did I give you a good enough
Yep.
snapshot there?
Wonderful. That's great. And I knew some people that met you on your pilgrimage in Quito, where the Our Lady of Good Success is. I think they met you when you were down there, so they had some good things to say about you.
Oh, that's nice.
So maybe you can share for some of our viewers. Many of our viewers are not from Australia. We do have some, but many are not. When you say things were really bad in your part of Australia, maybe tell us a little bit more. What does that mean? Like what were the restrictions that you were facing? What has daily life been like under this totalitarian regime?
Um, it's like a movie, honestly.
Uh,
The worst restriction period was probably 2 months. You couldn't go further than 5 kilometers from your house, and in miles, that is like 2 miles.
2 miles,
You
yeah.
couldn't go, yeah. So some places are rural or country areas, and they don't even have a shop within 5 kilometers. So they didn't take into account everyone, you know. Then you had a 1 hour outdoor limit. Now that's impossible to police. Like, who's actually following those ridiculous rules? Like,
Well, and first of all, if there's a real virus, all doctors say the best thing is to go outside and get fresh air.
oh,
So that just seems even contrary to.
that conversation is
Yes.
actually deemed illegal here. You can't talk about vitamin D because
Oh my God.
the only cure is the vaccine. Okay. Now get that in your head. And if you don't get it in your head, I'll say it a million times more, which is what they're doing at the moment. So yeah, you couldn't leave the house for more than 4 essential reasons: food, medication. There was a list of what they would call essential workers, which who deems one job to be more essential
Right.
than the other? It's terrible.
Right.
So everything was closed except for the bottle shops and the fast food restaurants. So you can still poison yourself. No problems with that. So you made a point. All the restrictions are anti-health. All of them. Okay, none of them promote healthy well-being. Not being able to go to church, not being able to meet with friends, not being able to go to school. The children in school have been out of school in the last 18 months more than they've been in school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I heard a story from someone there and then for Americans, we're like Australia. So you have a country, but you also have different states that make up Australia, like the United States. We had heard that they were sort of bordering, like you couldn't cross the border into another state of Australia. I heard a story. Maybe you can tell me if things like this are true. I think it was on Father's Day where people like literally went up to the border when I guess you're allowed out of your house a little bit, but like had to look through the wall or look through the border at their relatives to try to see them. I mean, is that exaggerated, or have you heard things like this?
Oh, that is still happening.
Wow.
Yeah. So I cannot travel. I can't go anywhere. I
Wow.
can't current kilometers from where I live, and then I have to prove that I left the house for an essential reason. That is still happening right now. And
Wow.
because that is part of my bail conditions, if I go 15.1 kilometers away from my house, I could go back to jail for 3 months.
Wow.
So no, it's not an exaggeration. I haven't left the state since all of this started. Oh wait, no, I did once when we had a window of freedom. But also in Western Australia, which is on the western, you have to prove double vaccination to get into the state.
Double vaccination.
Oh,
Then
oh
it'll be
yeah.
then it'll be triple, quadruple. Wait, yes.
I mean, there are
Wow.
people who live in Western Australia who had a daughter who was sick and they couldn't get back there unless they got vaccinated, and so they did.
Wow.
And obviously you could sue for assault, really, because that's not informed consent. That's bullying. But
Yes.
there'll be so many millions of people in that position. I don't know how we're going to fight all of them. But currently, right now, to your viewers, we still cannot travel around this country.
Wow. Well, again, you said if we're in a concentration camp in a year, I mean, some people already are. I mean, essentially, if you're in a concentration camp in your own home, in many ways, is what that sounds like. So you mentioned, and we'll talk about that next. Then your recent arrest. I know there was a video that went pretty viral on YouTube, where you had the sense of really, I think, mind to turn your phone on when this happened. So I'll just show quick. Here's a clip from this video of Monica being arrested.
Just being pulled over by the cops.
Oops.
Probably because I'm outside of my
Oop.
5Ks, but we'll see what happens. So I just thought I'd put the live stream on just in case. I don't know why I just took my seatbelt off.
So there you see, there is Monica being arrested. So what did they arrest you for?
They call it incitement. So it's kind of like, imagine you were in the car with a friend and you incited them to park in a no parking zone and they got a fine for parking there. That's basically what I've been arrested for. So apparently I'm inciting people to break the COVID directions, which we call the CHO directions, Chief Health Officer directions. So because of my platform and voice, apparently I'm a danger to society because I'm inciting people to break public health orders. So that's why I was arrested. And I put my live stream on because we don't trust the police here in Victoria anymore. I do know that there are probably 95% of police are good and they don't like this, but they will still follow corrupt orders. And that is just what we've seen. So we always turn on our live streams with any police interaction. And it's really sad that we have to do that, but we actually have to protect ourselves. I mean, there's been so many stories now of people, the pregnant woman being arrested in her home. You probably saw that at some point. And they live streamed, and because you live stream, they can't delete it or take your phone because it's already out there in the universe. So if I had taken a video with my camera, they might have deleted it and I would have been in jail, and I still don't have my phones back, by the way, 2 months later. So I never would have gotten access to that video. So we actually just know now that you have to live stream everything.
So essentially you were arrested for speaking out, for engaging in political speech in what these Western democracies, I mean, including Australia in that, have sort of claimed, oh, this is the great triumph of freedom and democracy thanks to us. Everyone has freedom of speech. But now you're just arrested for expressing your opinions on the things the government's doing. I mean, essentially that's what they charged you with.
Oh, it's not even a guess. We know what they wanted to do. Because the bail conditions, so I don't know if your audience knows, but I didn't, and this was the next question anyway, so I'll go into the bail conditions.
Yes.
So I spent a night in remand, which, wasn't fun. And for a Catholic audience, I will explain that there was another woman in a different cell and she was squealing and screaming and she had a really hard time. And I'm pretty sure that was the devil, working through her. She was probably on substances and things like that. So, but she was screaming like I don't even know how someone has the energy to scream like that for that long. It was really intense. And for me, it was the devil just saying like, you can't do this. You're cold. You're uncomfortable. You can't do this, because I already knew. I had a vivid dream 3 days beforehand, like a daydream of this exact thing happening. And I said to my partner, I said, look, I don't have any children. My family will support me and you will be okay without me. If I get arrested and given bad bail conditions, I'm not going to sign them. 3 days earlier. So we had already discussed it. It was already I was already prepared for it mentally. But then the devil was like, yeah, you can't do this. And I was like, yes, I can. Yes, I can. Anyway, that was the night before. Anyway, so we had a court date. We had a court the next day about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I mean, the first bail condition was already enough for me not to sign it. But the first bail condition said that me, Monica Smit, would have a curfew until my hearing, which could be 1.5 years away, from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day. Can you imagine? I mean, my lawyers said that they've seen better bail conditions on people who have run through houses with machetes. I'm not a criminal. Anyway, so that was enough for my own personal rights to be exploited that I wouldn't sign it. But it gets much worse. So there were 2 conditions in there that said, one, I wasn't allowed to incite opposition to the CHO directions. Now, there's a very big difference than inciting someone to break the CHO directions and inciting opposition, okay? That word is very important. But also they wanted me to delete all past content that incited opposition. They also wanted me to delete any groups or manage any groups that I own or in part own that incite opposition. Now, I have probably 150 different channels around all different social media networks because we have community groups all over the country. It's impossible for me to manage that. So basically, they were saying in those bail conditions that it is okay to stop someone from speaking their opinion of the government. That's what it was. And they wanted me to delete all content. Now, I'm the vice president of a political party. If I wasn't opposing the government, I wouldn't be doing a very good job. So literally all my work, I had 7 staff, I had 100 community groups around the country, all of it would have been deleted. So they didn't even make it hard for me to say no and stand up. They made it really easy because there is no way that I would ever do that to my staff. And, you know, we have 76,000 subscribers, which in Australia is quite large. And thousands of people who depend on these community groups for social and emotional support. If I had signed those bail conditions just because I wanted to go home to bed, it would have ruined people's lives, not to mention the good work that we had been doing as a group. So they wanted to absolutely squash me entirely. And if I had signed those bail conditions, not only would everything have stopped, but I would have set a precedent that it is okay to stop someone's human right of freedom of speech in a bail condition. Now, a lawyer would argue that I could have signed the bail conditions and appealed them straight away. But because they had asked me to delete all content within 48 hours, so you can't appeal that quickly. So it would have deleted everything and then I would have appealed and it would have just been too messy. I was like, you know what, I'm ready for this. I'd already planned to go to prison for this if it happened. You know, I don't think that you should force a PR situation just to get PR, but I didn't choose this. It landed in my lap. And so I thought, well, this is my chance to make a stand.
So for our viewers, to make sure everyone's clear on this, when we talk about bail condition, so when someone's arrested, they don't have the trial right away. You have to wait. And then usually the court says, okay, while we're waiting for the trial, we'll let you out of jail, but you have to comply with some conditions. And they're basically to make sure you come back for the trial. So often there has to be some money paid that say, you know, if you don't show up for the trial, you lose this money, a bond. But then other, you know, general restrictions, you know, you can't leave. You have to tell people where you're going in general, just to make sure you show up. What they did to Monica here is they basically said, we're trying to put you in prison to shut you up and let you, as a political opponent, as part of a political party against the government, silence you. Now, in order to get out of prison, if you want to get out of prison, you have to agree with us and silence yourself and delete all your content. I mean, that's what's sort of outrageous here. I mean, this is what you do see in the news about a third world country dictatorship, jailed political opponents to shut them up. I mean, this is happening in Australia. You know, a country that, you know, would have said would have considered, like, again, the United States or Canada or other countries are based on the same legal system. So really, really outrageous, and commend you for your bravery. Again, it's easy to sit here right in my home talking to you on a computer and think, oh yes, yeah, if I were in jail, I'd stay there if it's the right thing. But as you say, if you're in these, you know, it's got to be a frightening situation to know you have a way out. There's a door open. All you have to do is, like St. Thomas More, sign the oath. Just sign what they want and they'll let you out. So really commend you for your fortitude there. So how are you out now then, if you didn't sign the conditions?
Well, yes. So, and I would just say on that, the joke's on them, really, because, and that gave me a lot of peace in prison. I was just kind of laughing to myself, like, haha, you know, you tried to silence me and now you've made a martyr out of me. And now I have an international profile. So that didn't work out really well for you, did it? That's just me being a little bit spiteful. But anyway, sorry, the question was, I'm out now. Yes. So I spent 22 days in solitary confinement because I refused to get the COVID test because they're proven to be pretty fraudulent. So anyway, we appealed to the Supreme Court and we got all the onerous conditions taken away. And this has set a precedent for people like me who are getting arrested for this thing. So 3 days later, after that Supreme Court application, there was someone who was arrested for the same thing, and they were given my amended conditions, so they didn't have to go through the difficulty. Now, I fasted for 12 days in prison, and the last 2 days were specifically designed to ask for the right judge at the Supreme Court. And I said to God, I don't need to lose weight or anything. Just let me have a good, just let me have a. And the judge was really great. And because I've set that because I had that win with her, if anything happens with my bail conditions or anything, it will actually be back with her. So I'm very blessed to have a good judge now who seems very fair. And she when she questioned the prosecutor on those bail conditions, oh my gosh, she ran rings around him, because the prosecutors, they get given a case, and they don't have to believe in it. They just have to do it. They get given guidelines of what to agree to and what not to. So he can't concede at any point. So he just has to keep talking and make himself look like an idiot, even though he really doesn't agree with this. You can tell. She was like, you want her to delete past event details? How would that incite anyone? And he's like, well, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, she can't go for a walk at 7:30 p.m. on a summer's evening. Are you serious? Like, she was quite shocked.
Wow.
But she did admit that, look, I can see that Monica is a creative person and she finds loopholes, and she will probably find more, but that is not a criminal offense. So she actually had a bit of a soft spot for me, I reckon.
Oh, that's great. And look, what you did, as she says, now helped other people, because now other people, aren't going to go through what you went through. So it reminds us, when we do the right thing, it often will, rebound around and help people. So you mentioned Reignite Democracy as a group. Did you found this, or did you start it with other people? And here's their website I'm showing as we're talking.
Yes, I founded that. Yeah, just happened on accident, more or less, but just kept evolving, and now we have 7 or 8 staff and a merchandise. It's a proper, fully fledged organization. It surprises me too, but it's really well.
Oh, what I was just going to say, we mentioned the merchandise. What I really liked is this tab called Business Directory, where are listing names of businesses there in Australia that are, I guess, supportive or are just doing what we would have thought was normal 2 years ago. And, I think, for example, I noticed you say accept cash is interesting. So there are lots of businesses who are refusing to accept the legal tender, I guess, that you have to point out that. It's kind of amazing. We have to point out a business that's willing to get paid for their products, in the normal way. But I think this is great because, businesses are the backbone of an economy. And if we can get business people to do the right thing instead of being like these woke corporations like Facebook and Disney and all these places, that's how we can really make a difference. So I don't know if there's some rumors in the United States now that, again, it's a little hard to know exactly what's going on, but there's rumors that a lot of pilots and flight attendants and people who work for airlines are calling in sick to protest the vaccine mandates that our person who occupies our presidential office has mandated. And they're basically saying, okay, you want to have mandates? We're not going to accept them. You want to fire us? Run your airline without us. And again, it seems like there were thousands of flights canceled yesterday, and the airline claimed this was great. It was because of weather and air traffic control. Even though this was one airline in particular, none of the others had any problems. So I guess the weather just selectively affected planes. But you can see this is a way where a good example of if people come together like you've been encouraging. They're a minority and they can't do things without all of us, right? They can't produce food, they can't do anything. And so I really like that you're also, as part of your movement, reaching out to highlight businesses that are, doing the right thing as opposed to being instruments of the totalitarians.
Well, there's a mixture, I'll be honest, and there is actually a shadow economy forming in Australia. So there are student to teacher websites where you can connect to tutors. There are job networks. So there's like to find employment, there's a website for that. Then you have the business directory as well. So we are kind of gearing up for the worst. In Victoria, they've just mandated the vaccine for 1.2 million people in the workforce. So they say for essential workers, which is pretty much everyone. Like, it includes hairdressers, it includes everyone. And that date
Wait,
is
wait, wait.
coming
So
up.
wait, when they shut down the country, only 4 people were essential, but now everybody's essential when they're mandating the vaccine. So they're not even
That's a
consistent.
really good point.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that. Thank you. Yeah, it's really scary. So people are really scared right now, and people
Wow.
are getting the vaccine who don't want to get it. It's really sad. So that date cutoff is actually Friday, which is 3 days away. So we are trying to get some hasty court cases in so that we can get an injunction against the mandatory vaccine so that we can stop it. But there are so many different email templates and ideas running around the internet. No one knows what to do. But Australians, we're not really a protest nation. We're not really like America. And we've actually been culturally trained to not be very patriotic. I don't know why, but patriotism seems to be racism over here. So we had a massive strike happen with the construction workers last week, and it fizzled out when the police started bringing rubber bullets. They're shooting people in the back while they're walking away.
Wow.
It's really scary. There's 70-year-old women getting knocked over and then pepper sprayed in their face once they're already on the ground. I mean, this stuff is happening. Every protest is like a war zone. It's not a normal situation. I just had a walk to the city on Saturday, and there are police all over the city, and there's no protest. They're just there. They're just there. So it's absolutely a police state here. And then you've got the mandatory vaccinations. It's pretty much a mess.
Wow. Well, what can people listening to our show, maybe people not in Australia, what can they do to support you? Obviously, they could pray for you, what you're doing, but what other ways can people get involved and support you?
Sure. Well, the first thing I would say is I would love to duplicate what we've done here. And if there is someone with the passion and the time to start a Reignite Democracy America, I'd be totally up for helping them do that. That's one thing. Secondly, well, I haven't announced this yet, but there is going to be a global event at some point to try and help Australia. As the judge said, I'm creative and I find loopholes, and I cannot do events in Australia, but I can do them all over the world. So that will be coming out soon. So if your channels could promote that when I have the paperwork ready. Secondly, maybe you could interview more people in Australia to get the message out. But yeah, I think this global event's going to be a really great way for the world to basically, we are not allowed to protest. We get shot in the back going home, right? So if the world can do it on our behalf, I think it will send a really strong message to our government that it is this bad and that we do not feel safe here anymore. And I think that citizens who have dual citizenship with Australia and another country, I think they should ask their home country to get them out of here. It's not safe here anymore. Like it's a jail here. Although it's nice, there's still cafes open that you can, there's an illusion of some normalcy to life, but anything can happen at any time. The idea of a warplane going over my head it's not surprising to me if that would happen. Like nothing would surprise me at this point. They're building massive, what they call quarantine facilities, spending billions of dollars on these quarantine facilities, but yet they've just started trialing self-quarantining at home. So I'm just wondering, what are those big facilities for? I would say that they're for the unvaccinated. So it's going to get worse. But support-wise, I think just sharing our content, what's going on here, but also in your own country, be positive and hopeful, and don't let them break you in your spirit, because that's what they're trying to do here with all the ups and downs of the rules. They just want us to break like an animal on a chain, and so that we do whatever they want. So I have a saying that during times of psychological warfare, collective courage of conviction is going to be our strongest weapon. So we all have to believe that we can win, and then we're going to be stronger together. But I think Australia is the tip of the spear. Okay, so whatever's happening here is going to happen there. They chose us because I think we're weaker mentally, because we've had such a good life here in Australia, and we're not a protest nation, etc. And we've just had a really good lifestyle here. So I think we were a really great target. But they are, especially Melbourne, where I am, they're testing everything out with us. So if you think that this isn't about you, it absolutely is. And you have a chance to stop it before it comes to your country by supporting us in any way you can. So that's what I would say.
Wow, great advice. And again, the website you see up there, reignitedemocracyaustralia.com.au. You can go there. It's really a great website. And I noticed on there, I think it said 76,000 subscribers for something you just started, as you said, not that long ago, is phenomenal. So definitely check out the website. And if you let us know about your global event, send us the information. We will certainly make our viewers and readers aware of it. So thank you for giving. You're obviously a busy person. Thank you for giving of your time to share your story. Hopefully inspire our viewers to do things like this. Again, like we talked about with Father Vanois last week, if nobody asked the governor to consecrate the state to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, he's not going to do it. If we don't get out and call for things that need to get done and stand up, then there'll be nobody left to do it. And we'll, as Monica said, wake up one day in some kind of a concentration camp and say, how did we get here? So wonderful telling your story. Any parting thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, I think a lot of Catholics use the excuse that I'm not going to fight, I'm just going to pray. And I do understand that. And for some people, that is all they can do. And if that is all you can do, then that's what you should do. But if you know that you can do more, it's your duty to listen to that voice and to be persistent in finding your purpose. You'll be happier, might take a bit of effort, but you'll feel more fulfilled and you'll be at peace. So my lasting comment would be, don't use, I'll just pray as an excuse if you can do more.
Don't just pray when you can do more. Excellent. So pray, but don't just pray. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Monica. And we'll keep watching what's happening down there and look to hear about your global event. So thank you for visiting and listening with us today. And if you, as always, have enjoyed the free videos and audio podcasts we make available, please consider subscribing to all of our channels. We mentioned the V word, so this may get pulled from YouTube. We will always have backups on Rumble, so check Rumble if you can't find this. If you tell somebody about it and all of a sudden it's gone, may not be surprising. Also, we have audio podcasts available, which some people like listening. So please share them, spread the word. This is how we can get around them, by just sharing the information ourselves. So please join our apostolate and do that as a thank you for us making this available. And if you enjoy our free content, please consider subscribing to Catholic Family News. Our monthly newspaper comes out the first of every month. We look into lots of issues affecting the Church and the world from a Catholic perspective. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time on a Catholic Family News special report.